and I certainly agree with the majority leader that thank goodness we will get this off the Senate after years and years and years. And I was one of those 6 senators in the Judiciary Committee that spent 18 hours continuously, the longest single hearing in the history of the Hawaii legislature. So it is true that we have discussed and rediscussed this issue over and over again. But it's also true that this is an engine, very speedy, coming out of the tunnel now. The fastest piece of legislation in anyone's memory. And it's also true that a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth for how this legislation was forced upon us and the political aspects of it. Particularly from the end of last year's legislative session in the House, the last hour of the last day, to what's happened this year. We have differences of opinion, although it's interesting that those of us that differ on this bill have been the subject of a great deal of criticism and name-calling as well. We disagree on bills all the time, and that's part of the process. And that's why I say I respect everyone who has come over the years and has testified. I appreciate the good senator from Kalailoa mentioning my position and also mentioning Governor Cayetano. This has been my public position for 20 years, that the legislature should not be involved with marriages or many other of the things that it's involved with. I've also said that one of my problems with this bill is that it diverts attention from what we're supposed to really be doing here. Tomorrow marks the 20th day of this legislative session. 1/3 of the way. We have no operating budget. We have no bills that will seriously and meaningfully address our problem as having one of the worst financial situations in the nation. We have no bills that are moving meaningfully to add jobs, improve the business climate, or to reduce our spending and debt. To the contrary, we are adding more spending and more debt. And one of the questions that arose in this bill was the economic implications. You can talk about human rights, you can talk about justice, you can talk about all of those things. But you cannot ignore the possible economic implications, including those that will impact the state's employee retirement system. That system, the ERS, is underfunded by nearly $8 billion right now. Is ranked 5th worst in the United States. And along with the healthcare system, which also will be impacted, but we don't know by how much. We have grave economic challenges ahead of us, and no one seems to want to address them in their haste to get this bill through, to make it the first bill that the governor signs into law. I don't mind being on the losing end. Heck, I probably hold the record here of being on the losing end. But people have to stand up for things. They have to stand up for their principles and what they believe in. And they also have to ask questions and demand that we get answers. Because the implications of these questions unanswered impact everyone in this state. And not just now, but in the future as well. The Attorney General sent in testimony, and he had a number of comments and concerns that have not been addressed with even this House Draft 1 of the version. One had to do with the filing of joint state tax returns in the manner in which it's done. Another concern had to do with not specifically addressing the termination of a civil union partnership. A third, the bill does not clearly define and distinguish about adoption procedures in civil union relationships. Fourth point that the Attorney General made was that partners to a civil union not solemnized in Hawaii may be able to claim civil union status without formal documentation. And it calls into question civil unions in those few other states that allow it. The Attorney General also called attention to a number of ambiguities, unclear statements, and other potential problems. Unfortunately, the legislature, when it picks something that it really and passionately wants to move along, even though it has warnings or cautions about these instances, will always pass a bad bill and say we can come back later to fix it. Our responsibility should be to fix it now. We can debate about human rights and civil rights, and there is a debate. There are good points to be made on both sides. And there have been inappropriate and outrageous remarks made by those on both sides. We should be civil to everyone that we talk with and discuss issues with. But the idea that someone says something is of a certain weight and magnitude does not in and of itself make it so. Those supporters today think that this will be a historic and legendary day for Hawaii. I do not. Again, I say that we should be doing primarily and in priority order those things which need our immediate attention, and yet we're not doing that. And I think that's a shame. I also, again, say that it is totally inappropriate to link and bring in the newly confirmed Supreme Court Justice, who you heard me strongly support and confirm as I have for over a decade. That is not an issue. I supported that individual and that woman because of her absolute qualifications and expertise. Nothing else. And yet we continue to try to bring people into a debate and into an argument, even though they have not said that they are part of that argument. Let the bill and let the issue stand on its own merits. Enjoy the political victory that you have today, but remember that the problems and the challenges in the state of Hawaii still exist. By passing this law, which we have shown is so divisive within our community, is not going to satisfy everyone, or even the majority of people. By doing it in a manner that we have done, further tells people that they don't have confidence in our legislature. And finally, not allowing people to vote on this important social issue, I think is an error. So with these remarks, again, I say that I respect everyone who has testified for and against. The discussion will go on, not in the legislative arena, but probably it will move to the judicial arena. And with that, Mr. President, I call for a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm compelled to rise briefly. Please proceed.
The good senator from Kapalua lives for moments to grandstand and to attack what I say. And that, of course, is his right.
Please allow the members to adjourn to the debate on the floor.
But what I don't appreciate is when he doesn't tell the truth about what I said. When I raised the issue of economic implications, I did not say it was superior to equal rights, because I don't believe it. I raised it as an issue which has not been addressed, just as I raised the issues in the Attorney General's testimony, which have not been addressed. And I think that's extremely important. And I'm fully aware of the significance of that American flag and that Hawaiian flag and the oath and pledge I take under the United States and Hawaiian Constitution. And I would not get any schooling in constitutional law from the good senator from Kapalua. And when it was brought up that liberty and justice for all, it should have been added that that's great, but we're not allowed to pledge allegiance to the flag in this body. And it should be brought up, we're not allowed to pray in this body anymore. So we're very selective in the kinds of rights and the kinds of responsibilities that we address in this body. And as for the personal conversations If someone has something to say, they either say it to the group, they testify to it, or they say it before another body. Instead, we continue to hear from the good senator from Kahului about the conversations that he has. And we're supposed to accept that. I have conversations with people too, and they differ in what the content is. But that's not what the issue is. The issue here is, and as I stood before you and said, I respect people that have different opinions. But if you're going to talk about issues here, and you're going to try to make it personal, then it doesn't belong in this body. And if you're going to talk about, now is the time to pass this bill, because you read the Constitution, I would ask what's happened in the previous 51 years when we've had one party control this legislature continuously, and all but 8 years the executive branch upstairs. If it were that important, that time, and if it was that wrong in the Constitution, then it should have been addressed previously. I have a real problem with reading the Constitution and finding within it a lot of things that special interests want to see there in that Constitution. And as a matter of fact, we're looking right now at the courts and ultimately to the United States Supreme Court about an idea in terms of the Commerce Clause. And there are other clauses in the Constitution. Because someone wants it, or because they interpret it that way, does not make it right. That is why we have a justice system. That is why we have final adjudication between and before the United States Supreme Court, if that's what we'll do. So, again, this idea of loser, I don't think so. Mr. President, I think we're all winners when we can debate issues fairly, and we reach a conclusion, and we move on, and as I said from the outset, do the important and most important business of this body, and that is to bring economic equality to the people of Hawaii. Thank you.
Senator Baker? Aye. Senator Jonathan? Aye. Senator Dela Cruz? No. Senator English?
Aye.
Senator Escaro? No. Senator Fukunaga? Aye. Senator Gabbard?
No.
Senator Galataria?
Aye.
Senator Green?
Aye.
Senator He?
Yes.
Senator Ige?
Aye.
Senator Ihara?
Aye.
Senator Kahele?
Aye.
Senator Kidani? Aye. Senator Kim? Senator Kochi?
Excuse.
Senator Nishihara?
Aye.
Senator Ryan? Aye. Senator Shimabukuro? Aye. Senator Slom?
No.
Senator Solomon?
Aye.
Senator Taniguchi?
Excuse.
Senator Tokuda? Aye. Senator Wakai? Aye. Mr. President?
Aye.
18 ayes, 5 noes.